The show really only has one rule. Say what you want. Nothing can be held against you because here, everything is officially unofficial. Oh yeah, we need a host. You ready, Dave?
Welcome to Officially Unofficial. When we first started this podcast, I told you guys the whole concept behind this show is to take hot topics, big subjects that are thrown around in the sport, and get the true and honest opinion from a panel of anglers. And when I said that, I knew a lot of people kind of scratched their head and raised an eyebrow and said, they'll never do that. This is a Bass podcast. They're not going to do After this week's show, I don't think you'll ever say that again, because we're about to broach one of the spiciest topics in the sport. But before we get into this week's show, I want to let you know that this podcast, and for that matter, basically every podcast on earth, is opinions. That's what you get from this show. You get the opinions coming out of that person's mouth at that time. Now, this week's show's topic is definitely going to relate to several anglers because there have been two very high-profile disqualifications to kick off the 2025 Progressive Bassmaster Elite Series. But in no way is this planned to be a way to pile on. I just want to get inside anglers' minds and see what they're truly thinking. Now, I'm sure you've already guessed that this week's topic is the no information rule. You don't have to look far and wide on social media to realize that, well, everybody is talking about it. Good, bad, or ugly, you can read people's opinions. But I wanted to get the anglers' opinions. And I once again reached deep into my bulbous Rolodex of professional anglers, and what a panel we have here this week. We have Gerald Swindle, Jeff Gustofson, Greg Hackney, and Seth Feider. And all four of them share their opinions, their thoughts, their hopes, their dreams for the no information rule and, well, the future of the sport. Now, I can keep talking about it for a while, but I imagine at this point you're tired of me moving the hole that makes the words and you just want to hear from our guests. So let's kick things off with the incomparable G-Man, Gerald Swindle. Gerald Swindle, a lot of scuttlebutt floating around about the no information rule.
You put that right in there, scuttlebutt.
It's a great word, isn't it?
It is a great word. Could you use it on day one of the Classic without just nobody knowing that me and you set it up? Could you work it in on an interview on stage and nobody know that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
100%.
I'll be listening.
100%. I will not only work it in once, I'll get you, how many competitors we got? 55? 3. No less than 3 scuttlebutts will come out on day one of the Classic.
There it is. Challenge accepted.
I'll just add that to the long list of ridiculous things I've said on that stage as a bet. You would think I'd be a lot more focused on my job.
No. So the rules, the no information rule is the hot topic. It seems to be, it's popped up a couple of times in the first couple of events, and the no info and how it reads. And I told some of the guys at Okeechobee on the blast off on day 2, the rules have been the rules now. I don't know, 15, 17 years we've been on the no information rule. It is what it is. It doesn't mean if a guy at the gas station says, "Hey, Hackney, throw a purple worm," he can't throw a purple worm the whole tournament. He didn't solicit that information. He can't control that guy screaming at him or talking to him, but he must make a valid effort to get out of the conversation. If the guy's approaching him and saying, "Hey, G-Man, I can tell you where they're at," I have to say, "Hey, boss, you can't." I appreciate it. You probably catch them a whole lot better than me, but we're in our no information rule, so I can't get any information. You have to make that effort and remove yourself from that conversation or from that environment so you don't hear too much. It is a lot of guys act like it's super hard, Dave. It's not. It's just a no information rule. They want to act like if somebody said, "Well, I caught a 7-pounder on bed over there." Okay. You were already there anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're not, if you turn and go, "Where'd you catch him?" By that tree on the left of it in the shade. Is that where he was? Then you broke the rule. So I think we have had some guys say, it's just too much. It's been the rule, man. It's always been the rule for years and years and years now, and it's to try to make a level playing field. I have no problem with the rule. As a competitor, you know it going in, and some of the guys are like, "Man, this is really hard." You think it's hard for some of the younger guys? Put yourself in the shoes of the veterans who've been here a long time, who are working show after show after show, meeting and greeting and meeting and greeting and shaking a lot of hands. They're the ones who walk around on pins and needles and are always on guard. And I know I have left people at a gas station thinking this guy's a genuine prick because I'll say, "Hey, I can't get any information."
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell Lulu, "No, no, man, you can't do that. You can't do that." And they get offended. There's no other way around that. For me and my conscience, I have to make that effort. So I don't know where all the confusion lies. I really don't.
So the rule hasn't changed. Guys are
No,
just a
the
little
guy.
more wound up because
Well, the guys that are fishing under the rules have changed.
how so?
You
Ha,
know,
ha-
the original guys who were raised up in that environment knew the rule.
yeah.
So you have several generations of new fishermen coming in that haven't always been under that rule. And maybe haven't taken it as serious as it says in the pamphlet. This is a no information, and maybe been too lenient coming up to this level. But this is the highest level the game is supposed to be played. So when they say no information, that means no information. And I've heard guys say, "Well, I can stand around in a tackle store, and as long as I don't ask, I can just stand around and tell them, well, you can tell that guy over there, but you can't tell me." Well, that's illegal, man.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to gain. In my interpretation of the rule, that
Yeah.
would be illegal because you are trying to gain a competitive advantage. And by simply saying, "Don't tell me, tell Bobby Joe over there," you knew you manipulated the conversation, and you still got the information and thought, "I didn't do anything wrong." Well, that's between you and the guy giving the test. What your intent was and how it's taken. Uh, I That rule I had no problem with. I get more confused on situational things that happen with it. Uh, and I know this has been a hot topic at Okeechobee. When I read that somebody says they broke the no information rule and they self-reported, what does that mean to you? Like if you're the MC and you're a fan and you read that, what would you interpret that as, Dave?
Well, I would interpret it as somebody called up and said, "Hey, I've realized I broke a rule and I want to report myself on it."
Right. And that's the way I see self-reporting.
Yeah.
Self-reporting is not getting turned in and then later realizing the walls are closing in. Let's scream uncle. That's not self-reporting. Self-reporting is what Shane LaHue did at Palatka when he realized in the rain and the fog he had missed the no wake zone coming into the river because he'd knocked his graph off, couldn't see where he was, and he put his boat in the shallow water and it stopped it. He realized, "Oh crap, that's way over there." So he pushes his boat backwards, goes back out into the lake. It comes back and repeats the process correctly, then calls Lisa and said, "Hey, I did this." Nobody would have ever knew. That's
Yeah.
self-reporting.
So you're saying Scott did not self-report?
No, no, 100%. And I know people are mad get mad when people say anything, but you didn't. You didn't, man. We have that issue pop up a lot when people run no wake zones and self-report. No, you didn't self-report. You reported by another angler. You were seen doing it, and you were confronted with the tournament director and went, "Oh, okay, I did it." Self-reporting is, "I ran the no wake zone, Lisa. I didn't see it. I am guilty of the violation." If someone has to bring reference to what you did, it is not self-reporting. The way I interpret it. But
Yep.
I probably go ahead and tell each and every one of you, I'm probably 100% wrong. But in my mind, that's how I would operate on it. But I don't see why anglers are so freaked out now about the no information rule. It has always been here. It is to be taken as trying to gain an advantage. What your intent was, did you act on it? I'd put a lot of that stuff into that rule. When Tripp and I roomed together for a couple of years fishing the opens, and we spent a lot of time together. And I love to always pick Tripp's brain. I would always ask him
Yeah.
these hypothetical scenarios, and he would always come back to this one thing, and never has left me. He said it all comes down to common sense, cuz common sense. He said, "What was your intent when you done that?" He said, "Only you know that if you were trying to get help." So like he made it so simple sometimes to understand versus when you read it, because if you read our rules, it's like, paragraph 5, section C, verbiage 1, blah, 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 blah. And then under that, it may have something that supersedes that.
Yeah.
So if you read it, you can get confused sometimes. But I still think what we're trying to create is a level playing field. And we know going into this that on a 1 year off limits, it is going to basically be easy to get inside the gray area. Whether you intentionally done it or you're non-intentional done it, you can get inside that gray area unintentionally quick if you're not super careful.
Yeah.
People can say too much around you. You can be around people who just won't shut up, and you're trying to get out of the building and you feel guilty about it. Like, I got to get out of here. So I see that. I've said for years that if we couldn't police it correctly, why would we have it? You see what I'm saying? Like, I like the fact that it's fair, but if you're telling me that it's almost impossible to police a 1 year off limits or from the time it's announced, uh, then why are we doing it? I would be the guy to say, well, if you think you can successfully police a 30-day off limit, I would say do that. But inside that 30 days, if you feel better about the confinement of that information, do that. I don't care if they talk to Santa Claus or ride Rudolph to the fishing hole. I don't care. I just want to know that we can police it correctly and be fair with everybody.
Is that not what they're trying to do with the increased lie detectors?
It is now. It is
Yeah.
now. The last couple of years, it has not. It has been.
No.
It has set us up to where we're at right now. And do I think? Um, do I think you can be not super guilty and struggle with a polygraph? Yeah. If you got a super guilty conscience and you think somebody told you too much, do I think that's possible? Sure. Sure. I don't know every human emotion. Do I think the polygraph is a great deterrent to keep people, try to keep them honest? Absolutely. But with this comes some uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
And I think if B.A.S. continues to try to make sure everyone is going by the rules straight up, it's going to get a little worse before it gets better. And I'm not so sure that that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And it was weird because people say when someone gets DQ'd or something happens, and it's happened in the opens, so it ain't just in the elites, it's in the opens, it's everywhere. There was 2 or 3 team tournaments in Texas early in January and February. They was DQing people left and right for failing the lie detector test. So it happens everywhere. It's not just in the elites or whatever it is. You look at that and go, okay, does it look bad? I don't know. It Sometimes it looks attractive to me because I'm like, well, at least I know we're cracking the rules.
Yeah.
So I think for some people it might feel like it looks bad, but I know in the Gerald Swindle Big Bass deal that Mark Jones and them run, and the Big Bass Tour, they've caught several people early on, and he questioned me one time. He said, "How bad is this going to look?" I said, "I think you're going to find out in 3 to 5 years. You're going to have so many people here because they knew it was fair.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is uncomfortable at first, but they know it's fair."
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot when you're going to pay money and travel and put all your effort into it. You want to know that you got a fair shake.
Yeah. And it has to look bad. I mean, we got to go through that because guess what? It's got to the point that you have a lot of anglers on their way up, that it's cute to help your buddy's kid that's in high school. It's not, he's in grade 9. Come on, let's help little Johnny. It doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't look bad at some point, 5 years from now, it'll be unrecognizable. It will just be.
Right. And I think that's a very valid point, because if you start someone out and all they've ever ate is chicken tenders, and then they get to the elites and they got to eat green beans, they're going to break the rules and go eat the chicken tenders.
Yeah.
They can't stop. And I've always felt like high school and college, I wish, was more mirrored to the elites, if that's where you were striving to go. Like if there was trails and say, hey, here's the route to the opens and to the elites. Maybe you should start learning in the ninth grade that you can't get help on the day of the tournament, and you can't. It's not cool. And we get call after call. Hey, gee, can you give us some waypoints on gunners? Will you sell them? How much per dot? It's not right, man. You're in an off limits. I'm not doing it. And it's weird because when someone calls, I'll say, "Don't y'all have an off limits?" Oh well, I said, then you can't do this, and it just shuts it all down. I'm like, it's wrong, but you're right. That's the way a lot of people have gotten into it. That's what they've learned is shortcut the process. Get a little information here, get a little information there. It's not going to hurt anybody. It's not going to hurt anybody but you when you get to where you want to go, because then you're going to have to learn to stop it. That's a
Which,
tough one.
which just like those nuggies, it's hard.
Yeah,
Trust
them
me,
chicken
it
nuggets.
is. It
Like,
is
I'm
hard.
gonna go get those nuggets over there because this is all I've ever ate, and this is my template to success. This is how I've done it. This is how I breezed through high school and then through college, as I gather a whole lot of information, which now they call that doing your homework. I don't, when I done my homework, was fishing holes. So like, did you put the
What is
balloons in?
happening? What is
I don't
happening?
know.
I
I
mean,
like that was good stuff right
balloons,
there.
balloons for homework.
They have given a budget increase on your podcast, Mercer. I I just think now when you've done that so long and you get to this level, you got yourself in a situation where you're like, do I have the confidence in myself to sustain this level of catching them against this level of competitor without going back in the gray area a little bit?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still
Balloon just
distracted
tore
by
me
the
up, man.
parade of balloons. I don't know whether it's better if that actually is on the final podcast or if it's not. So people just think me and you have gone totally insane.
They know that. They've seen our stage performance. Hey, and in full disclosure, on the rules, it's all in how people interpret them. Okay, I can read them 100 times. Chris and Lisa, neither one see the rules that I see. Like when we read it, when none of us agree that that's how the rules should be read or interpreted, nor does the other angler. So that's a lot of the confusion, is how the rule is interpreted. So you can twist the rule to fit your mind, or you can put it in a case and say, we're walking the fine line right here. We're not going over that way. So it's all up to interpretation by the tournament directors of all trails. And it's up to all anglers in every trail how you interpret the rule and how much you want to try to manipulate it before you did wrong.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. And also the everything being the same on every level. I'm all for that. I mean, the
Right.
open shouldn't be different than the elites. And
Because
I
we
don't think
seeing
college
that.
or high school
Right?
or kindergarten crappie that is coming.
It's coming. And in 1 month, we've had 3 violations, the same rule, and 3 different rulings. So the consistency through high school, college, and now would help some of that.
Yeah.
And I know that people's like, well, it's not fair. I don't know what's fair. We're just talking about what the rule is for the fair play of that level. And I would advise anybody to read the rule book, man. I've spent a lot of time sitting on the porta toilet in there scrolling through the rules, because I was so scared, Dave. I'm saying, almost embarrassed to say this. When I first made the elites, or was the top 100 then, there was no older guys mentoring me. They didn't give a crap if my boat sunk. They wouldn't even hardly talk to you. And I was so scared I was going to lose my place in life that I had worked to get here. I would read those rules. I would go ask Trip. I would go ask Dewey. I was so scared of losing what I had worked for that I got like I wouldn't even go that way. Like I just can't even do it. I'm like, I could just see a buoy out in the middle. It could have been a floating air balloon. If I thought it said no wake, I was stopping. I ain't going to chance it. So back in the day, that's just how you were so grateful to be at that level. You just didn't want to harm your future.
Yeah.
So reading rules become something that you studied a lot, and you wanted to make sure you understood them as close to the interpretation as you can to try to keep yourself out of that area. So no matter what level, high school, what league, I would advise reading them, man. To take a little time, brush up on them, watch the meetings, try to figure it out, because we're gonna all make mistakes. Trust me, you're gonna accidentally run no wakes. You're gonna do things that you didn't realize you've done. It could be a rule violation. That's life. Nobody's perfect, but you don't want to do something wrong that you should have known better. Like
Yeah.
that's something I can control. Like I want to read that and say, okay, I know not to do that. You know, Running in the fog and the wind and not seeing a no wake buoy and running by it, that's something that we've all done, and you're guilty of it. Is it your intent to gain an advantage? No. Is it a rule violation? Yes. You know, that's the hardest part of it. I don't know. I sit and think about the rules and I'm like, am I just old school and I'm a stickler for the rules?
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think fear in life is missing for a lot of people. You should have a healthy fear of breaking the rules. You should have a healthy fear of going broke. You should have a healthy fear of losing your job. I mean, why do you think an idiot like me and you joke about when we see each other at the classic or whatever?
Your
We
eyes got big when you said idiot. Look at me. Yeah, you.
no, but I mean that's all a healthy fear. Like fear is looked at upon like it's, oh, I'm scared of snakes. No, not like that. But you should have a fear of not getting the playing time if you're playing a sport. You should have a fear of not being successful at your opportunities in life. And that fear, I think, isn't as present as it once was.
No, and we're not really sure why. And I made a comment in a meeting we had with the anglers in New York last year, and I made a comment, and I know some people thought I might have just been being a smartass, but I said shortcutting your way to the elites is easy come, easy go. If you got here easy, you don't appreciate where you're at most of the time. So easy come, easy go. When you shortcut the race and got to the finish line without being tired, you think, well, I can do that again. So sometimes the grind of the process to get here. I remember talking to Carl Jacobson when he made it here. He was the same way. He was so terrified of doing something wrong. Like you lived in fear, like you just didn't want to do anything wrong. You had so much love for the organization, the people you were there with. I would have been, when I started, like I would have been embarrassed so bad to have done something to hurt, make Trip mad at me. Like I had that much respect. Like I just didn't want at that age. I don't want to do nothing wrong, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like you said, is healthy. We've gotten away from it. Can we get it back? Yeah. Yeah. It's just going to be a little uncomfortable getting there.
Yeah. Every time I screw up, I still look over my shoulder and
For
think
Trip,
Trip's gonna come out.
I can see him. He's pushing his glasses up. He said that, okay, guys, a little housekeeping. When Trip called, I'm like, hello, what's up? You know, and the guy was like a dad to me. But I knew when you seen him, like, man, you would cut up, and if you were late for the weigh-in or something, I'd be joking with you because Trip would be, look, better be a plane crash. His plane better not be late. He better show up with some air jet fuel on him. Yeah,
uh,
old school mentality and to live in it now, you're like, yeah, all these emotions you get there and you're like, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And what are we going to do in this situation? I love the fact to just go fishing, man.
yeah.
I see it get back to that. Unfortunately, it's a big business and there's a lot of money and there's a lot of sponsorship dollars out there. And in any sport, I don't care, card playing or whatever else it is, there's a certain amount of people in the world that have just got to do something wrong. They
Yeah.
just got to. It's football. It doesn't matter. Horse racing. There's a percentage of people who like we're gonna swim in the gray area. So that's to be expected in life.
Yeah. What I always expect is you to tell me exactly what you're thinking, and you never let me down. Thank you, G.
Brother, I appreciate it. I'll be listening for Scuttlebutt at the Classic. I'll see you at the Pro-Am Day.
It
And
is happening.
I'll be scuttlebutting up on that stage to see you.
Well, I look forward to it.
But hey, the question is, if Scuttlebutt was an elite angler, who would it be?
Ooh.
Would it be a Patrick, Kyle Patrick, or Wes Logan?
He got a little scuttlebutt to
Yeah,
him.
a little scuttlebutt to him, don't little fire and ice.
I'm gonna have to put some thought into that, but it
Yeah.
could be a little scuttlebutt. The one and only Gerald Swindle. I'm going to
Peace,
get me some chicken tenders. For Classic champion, Elite Series champion, the great Canadian snow leopard, Jeff Gustofson. You are in Texas, but it looks like you are. Is that like in your rider that you have to always be in a Canadian-esque log cabin?
Oh, we got some nice wood on the wall in here. I just arrived in Texas. Happy to be here, and looking forward to getting to fish in the great state over here for the next couple weeks.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Welcome to Officially Unofficial. The big
Yeah.
chat is.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to have you here. The big chat. This topic is no information rule. Where do you sit with it?
I think it's the best rule that we have. One of the best rules that we have that Bassmaster has, and it's very black and white. Over the last week, there's been a little bit of dialogue out there that it's a hard rule to follow, and it's absolutely not. When just so like people know, if you fish the Elite Series, when our schedule comes out, which is usually 4 to 6 months ahead of the start of the season, a long time in advance, we're not allowed to get any information about the water bodies on the schedule other than like publicly available stuff. So like we can watch YouTube videos, we can read fishing reports online, but you cannot talk to a friend about the lake. We can't talk to anybody privately about the lake, get waypoints, get told this is a good area, get told what lure to use. It's very simple. And I think most of the anglers on the Elite Series take the rule seriously. I've stayed and traveled with a lot of different guys or anglers over the years. And I mean, the hard part sometimes we go into some of these towns and you've got a wrapped truck and boat or you're fishing down the bank. The local people want to come and tell you stuff, and it's easy. It's stop. You can't tell me anything. I wish you could, but we have a rule. We're not allowed to get any info, and most people understand, and they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. And sometimes I think probably people think that we're a dick because you stop. I can't talk about this with you, but that's what I've done, and it's pretty easy. And so it's a little bit frustrating to see people upset with Bassmaster over some of the stuff that's happened the past couple of weeks when it's not them doing anything wrong.
You're blowing up. Up.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the world we live in, though, too. But I just find it funny that a year ago there was people upset and saying, well, Bass isn't strict enough on certain people, and now we're too strict on certain people. And when I say we, I mean, I just yell stuff. You just catch fish. I mean, it is the tournament department that makes those decisions. But who does that rule protect, in your opinion?
Well, like I'm from Canada. There's a number of international anglers that we don't have the contacts all over the country to get fishing information at a lot of the lakes. So I fished the FLW tour for 6 years before joining the Elite Series. This is year 7 on the Elite Series. And they had a rule where you could get info up until 2 weeks before practice started. And it felt like, over all those, I fit a lot of those tournaments, it felt like I didn't really know people around. So I never really got any good info. And but it felt like if you weren't trying to get it, you weren't doing your job. And then when I joined the Elite Series, like that's literally like my favorite rule aspect of the Elite Series was I just never had to worry about that anymore. Like you're not calling people up and trying to ask questions about where you're going fishing, and the tournaments aren't like who can get the best spots given to them. And at this level, like I feel like the majority of us, the challenge of like figuring it out and like finding them, and that makes it so much more special, like when you win and when things go well. And I mean, I just came off of 2 brutal tournaments in Florida. I did not figure it out, and but I'm like super motivated to figure it out next week. Now it's a new lake and a new place, and but like, yeah, I don't know, there's Japanese anglers and Carl's from Australia. I mean, it's a rule that keeps it fair for the entire field, that you can't just call up people to get told where to fish.
Yeah. And you're right. When you look at how FLW did it with 2 weeks, you do. I mean, that's just natural. It's like, you can pre-fish till the end of the day and everybody pushes themselves, because if you get off, even if you've got what you think you're fishing and you get off at 3:00, you feel like I'm not putting in the same effort as everybody else. So if you put a date on it, it does make people feel like you're not trying, you're not giving it your all. And info is such a, do you think it gets, how many people do you think are getting info on the elites?
I don't think it's very many. Like, I mean, I feel like I don't think it's a huge problem, but obviously we've had 3 tournaments in a row where it's been a problem, and that sucks. And I hate it for those guys, but I also hate it for the rest of us that are, like we go to like extremes to not let people tell us anything, or go worse, solicit anything. It sucks. And like I don't know, but I think the majority of the field, like the high, I don't know, 80-90%, like aren't even considering it, and we go out of our way to like I've been around a lot of the boys and over the years, like staying together, and it's just everyone I've ever been around is like, stop, you can't tell me that, and that's what you do. And we've been told by Bassmaster multiple times that this isn't about, when they're doing the polygraphs on whether you got information, they're not looking for if the guy on his dock said, oh, I caught one in front of the lily pads down there last year on a worm, or the guy at the gas station saying something to you. It's about, they're looking for if you're soliciting information, and that's fine. I think it's great.
Yeah. If a guy says something to you like, hey, they love yellow spinner baits here, that's one thing. But if you like pull around and be like, oh yeah, so how do you fish those spinner baits?
Right.
And where do you fish them? And then when you're actively trying to get that info, and I think, and weirdly enough, I mean, I should be better at my job, but I didn't really think about it until you started talking. I was thinking, it's the Elite Series job. It's top level tournaments job to impact every level below it, whether it's the opens, whether it's the collegiate stuff, whether it's the high school stuff. And if you got Elite Series people getting rules or getting info, well, and that is rampant in high school and collegiate competition. And I think I get why it's rampant, because it doesn't feel as dirty. Like when Elite Series Pro calls you up and says, where do I fish? That feels a little dirtier than if, hey, my buddy's son is fishing in a high school tournament. Can you point him in the right direction? But I think somebody's got to stop it, because it's going to get to, if it doesn't, it's get to the point that you'll have all these young anglers coming up and they'll just have bred. That's how you do it. Like you call people and so it's got to stop somewhere. And
and then you hear of like rumors about like people are paying for it even. And that's like, even like morally for me, that's way worse. And, but I've gotten messages from high school kids and parents and college kids, and like I've gotten messages about, hey man, we have a tournament in Knoxville at Teleco. Do you think you could send me the waypoints where you caught all those fish in the classic? And it's like, are you kidding me? So I'm all about helping people. If they message me and ask questions about, Lake of the Woods or Lake Okeechobee or wherever it is, I'm all about like giving any direction I can, but I'm like, I will not like give waypoints or, because that's just like and the people that do that, it's all that's the wrong way to do it. And if you're like a parent teaching your kids that, and they love bass fishing and tournament fishing, like I just promise you that's not the way to do it. You got to fish and put the time in, and whether you want to be successful as a tournament angler, a guide or whatever, you got to be able to catch fish, and that it's the recipe for that is time on the water and working hard, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. When you think about it, I mean, as painful as some of the DQs have been for certain anglers that we've seen this year, it'll make things better for the elites. It'll make things better for, I mean, it has to get to the point where people are embarrassed to ask that question, because that's the only way, because it isn't an embarrassing question for a lot of people. And I don't think that's because they're looking to cheat. I don't think it's just become an accepted practice by people that, and I almost give the parents a pass, because you can go to any hockey camp, any football camp. There's that parent who's got their kid in every power skating course and everything. I mean, they're trying to help their kid, but you're not helping your kid long term.
No. And that's the one thing about like tournament fishing is the rules are important, and you got to respect them. And if you don't, then I don't think you deserve to be fishing at the highest level. And we set an example for like hundreds, thousands of people that want to get to do what we're doing, and it's kind of a joke when people are just that nonchalant about a serious rule like that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. So
Yeah.
and I know, like a lot of my friends that I've talked to this week about it, like the other anglers, we all feel the same way.
It's wild. So classics in Knoxville next year. Can I get some waypoints from you?
Hey man, I dug myself a good hole down in Florida, so I've got to I gotta have a good rest of the year. I'm behind the eight ball a little bit, but that's not the first time, and I'm gonna work my butt off, and I want to be in that tournament more than anything, obviously. So
yeah, or just go win the classic this week, and then you're in that tournament.
Yeah, I mean that makes all your fishing problems go away. I can guarantee you that.
Do you think? I mean, I think one of the amazing things, it speaks volumes for the person that you are. I mean, there was some scoundrels that got in around you, but I think for the most part, you got given some space by a lot of anglers in the classic. Do you think you'll get said space again this year or next year?
Yeah, it wasn't as much as like the people that you would have expected to give space kind of did, but like it wasn't as much as like I don't think that you think.
Oh, so there was people. I mean, there was plenty of people.
No, there'll be poachers for sure. There always is. Yeah.
Okay. Can you find more of that if you make that classic?
I hope so. I mean, that'll be the plan, and that's what I ended up having to do. Like I caught all but one of those fish I weighed in the classic. I only caught one that I weighed in out of the canal. So those all came off some other places, and but I they're hard to find. I'm sure Robert G will be a problem for everyone in that event, like just living there. And I'm assuming he's got quite a bit of time and probably has some pets out there.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun to go down, but let's just hope whoever wins it finds the freaking fish themselves, because I think this is short-term pain that we're seeing, but I think it is for the better part of the sport.
Yeah, no, and it's for sure. And yeah, like, but people don't be mad at Bassmaster about this. It's a good rule, and like it's black and white. We can't get info.
Yeah.
That's it.
There's plenty of other reasons to be pissed at Bass.
I don't have any. I'm a happy camper, and I feel pretty lucky every day to get to do what I'm doing.
I just totally make that joke because I always find it funny. Like, we go to the Sabine River. Iconelli puts his boat in the trees. Thanks a lot, Bass. You put them on a dangerous fishery. Somebody, sinks a boat on the Great Lakes. Thanks a lot, Bass. I mean, Bass gets blamed on some stuff, but
The
I
anglers
definitely
always
think,
have something to chirp about.
well,
No doubt.
and I don't even know if it's the anglers. But there's people chirping. The world chirps. Jeff Gustofson, thank you, brother. And now for a new segment we like to call
Sponsors we hope to have someday.
Jennifer and Sydney from Cavenders. Happy to talk to you guys. First of all, what is Cavenders?
Cavenders is Cavenders Boot City.
Yeah.
We are a Western wear retailer based in Texas with close to 105 stores across 15 states. A lot of those stores are in Texas for sure.
Well, I've spent a little time in Texas, so I'm familiar with it. When I was asking that question, I was asking for those who don't know, and there'll be a lot of people coming to Texas to celebrate the great sport of bass fishing, and we're excited that you guys are going to be part of it. Why bass fishing?
Well, we've been hearing about this event for a couple of years now, knowing that it was coming to Fort Worth. It's definitely been on our radar. We consider this a crossover customer for us. Not all anglers are probably Cavender's customer, but there are a lot of them that are, and we know that. Quite honestly, over the years, because Sydney and I manage our sponsorships for all of our stores, we have had a lot of managers whose sons got into bass fishing in high school, and so it has definitely been something that we touched on a little bit here and there. We try to stay core to Western in our sponsorships, but when the time is right, we've branched out, and we know these guys are going to come shop with us and enjoy our product.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great crossover. Obviously with all the Western stuff, rodeo and things like that, there's a lot of similarities between the two sports, and we're excited to have you guys at the Bassmaster Classic. How can we find you there? There's a lot going on, I know.
There's a lot going on. We're really excited you guys are coming to Fort Worth and then to the stockyards as well. It is a booming, crazy place these days. We have been in the stockyards at our store there since 2016. And man, I'm telling you, we have had the opportunity in a front row seat to watch it blow up down there, and just the traffic and the tourism and the people that come in weekend after weekend. So we can only imagine what it's going to be like when you guys take over in a few weeks. It'll be really fun and exciting.
We on the 18th before the Pro-Am, we are going to actually host a meet and greet at our Stockyards location with some of those Pro-Am celebrities and some of the anglers that are going to be there.
Cool.
So it will be on the 18th from 6 to 7:30. Everybody come out. We'll have some beer provided from another sponsor of the Bassmaster, and we'll have a good meet and greet with hopefully about 15 to 20 people there. And then we also are the title sponsor of the kickoff party in Mule Alley, and we're going to partner with Resistol Hat Company to sell hats on site. We're going to have some really unique custom pieces for the Bassmaster and all the fans, and I think you guys are going to be really excited about what we've got coming. So
when we say Mule Alley, because people don't know, so the historic stockyards in Fort Worth are kind of consist of Main Street and Exchange Street, and they're brick streets down there. And Mule Alley kind of runs perpendicular down into the Drover Hotel, and there's a lot of shopping and bars and restaurants in that space. And the Stockyards shuts that street down sometimes for events, and so they're shutting down Mule Alley on March 20th for this kickoff party that we are the title sponsor for, along with our friends at Resistol, who provide great straw and felt and wool cowboy hats. And we will be, like Sydney said, we'll be on site selling and having a large time with all of the anglers that are in town and the fans that are in town celebrating. And I think that you will find we know how to have a good time.
Yeah, you had me at having a large time. As soon as you said that, I was all in. So can a guy like me I need to get it dudded up for Night of Champions or something like this, so I can just roll into your store and
head to toe. Well,
head
outfit
to toe.
Head to toe.
Boots to hat, everything.
Yes,
everything.
We've got friendly staff that will welcome you the moment you come in the door, and they will help you get fitted in a hat, jeans, top, sports coat, boots, anything you need. If you want to get Western, we can definitely help you out.
Oh, I need to get Western. I mean, in a bad way. thank you guys very much. It's awesome to know that you guys are supporting bass fishing. It's awesome to know you're supporting the Classic, and I look forward to getting Western.
Well, absolutely. And don't forget that we will also be on site at the trade show is called the
Classic
Ask
Expo.
Classic Expo at the Fort Worth Convention Center on the 21st to the 23rd. We will have a 2,300 square foot on site store, and we will have a great assortment of products for people to come shop with us.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds like a plan. I will see you guys there.
Sponsors we hope to have someday.
Feider, a lot of chatter about the no info rule. You like it? Don't like it? Good, bad? What's the word?
I like it. I'm all for it. I think if we're the best 100 dudes on planet Earth bass fishing, that there's no sense in anyone getting information.
You don't worry. Like, what's the bad part about it? Is it difficult to keep said rule?
Yeah, well, it's hard to enforce. I mean, if you're not polygraphing everyone, it's hard to keep everybody in check.
But you don't have any of the concerns that I hear where people are like, you can't talk to anyone. I feel like you have any of those concerns?
No, not at all. I think it's pretty easy to not get information from random people. I mean, sometimes they'll say something, it'll be the first thing they say is some information, then you got to shut them down. But I've never had a problem stopping that. And you can talk to fellow competitors, that'd be the only problem if you couldn't get it from fellow competitors. And, like I room with Maddie, it'd be hard to spend a week in a house and not say anything about fishing. But as far as, getting it from non-competitors, that should not be an issue, I don't think.
Has this been the same rule the whole time you've been on the Elites?
Yeah.
Does it shock you that people all of a sudden have started to act like, whoa, there's this rule that's come out of nowhere and is, thanks a lot, Bass.
Well,
way to screw things up.
Yeah, well, it's just getting enforced now, and you're seeing some people get in trouble for it. So people are siding with them. But no, it is not hard and not a hard rule to follow at all, I don't think.
Who do you think the rule protects?
The honest guys. The guys not trying to be dirtballs, not trying to get information, which is most of us. And I think it's the only way to have a fair competition. I don't want to get beat because a guy who knows a guy who wins all the tournaments on the lake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to get beat because you figured it out better than I did.
Is there, you don't have to name any names, but amongst the field, like, is there certain people where you're like, yeah, that it's definitely somebody who gets a lot of info?
Absolutely, yeah. And some guys have been doing it forever. And then, we had an issue with it, a big issue with it last year, but there was another rule that it wasn't even a rule, really. There was just kind of a loophole with the opens guys knowing our schedule, but not having to follow our rules until they had signed up. So they had a couple month window which isn't a problem if you don't know the dates and the places you're going. But when it's like, oh, you're going to be at Lake Fork the first week of May, then getting information is, an issue. You know what I mean? When you don't know where you're going or what time of year you're going to be there, the information you gather for a February Lake Fork tournament is not going to be a factor for a May or a June Lake Fork tournament. So really once that schedule's out is when it becomes a problem.
If you were in charge, they gave you tournament director position tomorrow, would you change anything about it?
I'd like to see a few harsher penalties. Yeah. And it's hard to do, but I'd like to see some people get 86th for stuff like that instead of a DQ or a fine. And obviously, maybe the first time it is a DQ or a fine, but maybe, and it depends, really the severity of it. Did a guy at a gas station tell you to throw a spinnerbait, or did you buy 100 brush pile waypoints from a guy? You know what I mean? if you did something like that, I think you should just be 86 done, have fun over at FLW. You know what I mean? I'd like to see that just to, I think it would tighten everybody up. And then another thing like, well, I don't know. Go ahead.
No, I like when you do that.
No, I don't know.
I want you to go
I
there.
feel like some stuff, even after the guys get in trouble, they kind of like the whole self-reporting BS. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just happened. Someone got DQ'd for it, right? And like, it's quote unquote self-reported. And then he's like commentating on B.A.S. Live the next day, and it's like, was it self-reported? Because I knew about it before it was reported.
When did you hear about it?
I mean, I heard rumblings the week prior that, you know, there was video of it and whatnot. And I mean, if it was self-reported, had it not been reported yet or what? You know what I mean? And I don't think it ever would have got reported if there wasn't video of it, you know?
I've heard about the video. I have not seen
I haven't either. So I can't speak on that exactly, but and maybe this scenario I'm not describing perfectly, but there's been other things in the past where they've let people claim things were self-reported and they most definitely were not. Like, you got turned in. Maybe you admitted it as soon as they asked you about it, and that counts as self-reporting, but you weren't the first person to bring it to the attention of B.A.S. staff. I don't think that counts as self-reporting.
I think in this situation, again, everything's officially unofficial on this show, and I don't know the exact details, but from what I know is B.A.S. doesn't own that video. You know what I mean? The video, like, nobody really owns it, so you can't. And then if somebody comes in and says, I'm self-reporting, it is kind of a weird.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how it all shook out, but in my head, I think knowledge of what transpired did not originally come from quote unquote self-reporting.
Gotcha.
I think it was turned in by someone else and then brought to that person's attention. And then maybe it was admitted at that point, but I don't think that counts as self-reporting.
So what do you think they should have done?
I mean, what they did was fine, DQ him, but don't have him under this false guise of if he turned himself in. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely a weird.
Like, you can just have the facts and not put a little twist on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if they don't have the proof that he did it, you know what I mean? Like, there's rumors floating around about everyone.
Oh,
but if you don't have the proof,
is there though? Is there rumors floating around about everyone?
Well, not everyone, but a lot of people.
Well, you heard any rumors about me, Dave?
Not when it pertains to fishing.
Okay. All right. Exactly. The rumors seem to always follow the same people.
Yeah. Well,
where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah. You know, you're not wrong. There definitely is rumors around certain people, and it's I think in this situation it's a weird one because I mean, again, I've heard about the alleged video. I'm still waiting to see it. I mean, if somebody has it, I'll put it on this freaking podcast. I mean, I'd love to see the video.
I've only heard about it too. I haven't seen it, but
yeah,
I mean, from the gist I get of the story, that's how it went down.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm all wrong. I don't know.
No, I mean, that's exactly what I've heard, but I've also heard, so I'm like, why are we not using the video? I've also heard we don't, you know, as we, meaning B.A.S, does not have the video, and
maybe there isn't
who got the video.
I don't know.
I've heard a lot about a video.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have too, but you know, rumors are. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other thing that was just weird about it, like I saw him practicing on day 2, which was like a week after I had heard of the video. So had it been self-reported, wouldn't it have taken place by then? And you know what I mean? Why would you be out there practicing if you knew you was already out of the tournament? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about everything.
No,
I'm just telling you what I heard. And I haven't seen the video. I wasn't there, but that's the gist of it.
Your opinion can't be wrong. It's your opinion. I mean,
Well, it can be. I don't have all the facts, but that's just with what I know.
Oh, no, but it's an opinion. Opinions, I mean,
Fair enough.
you like red cars, I like black cars.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't mean one's better than the other.
Well, black cars are better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I like them. You like red ones in the story.
Okay.
So it's all good. The rule is not broken, just people are breaking it, is your take.
Well, it's super hard to enforce, unless you're going to polygraph every angler, every tournament. It's impossible to enforce. But I think they're doing a good job now, adding more polygraphs, enforcing rule infractions.
Yeah. Well, do you think we'll see more of it this year because of the increased
Yeah.
lie detectors? So there'll be
Yeah.
more DQs this year.
There will be.
Over under of, will we see, we've seen 2 in 2 events. Will we see more than 5 or less than 5?
I mean, that's a good number to draw it at. I think you're right there on the money line. So, I was going to say 5.
Yeah. 5 more?
No, 5 total. That's
okay, so 3 more.
I get. Yeah.
I take the.
But I guarantee you, people are already tightening up. People that were bending rules have already tightened up. So I think anything they get in trouble for will be something that happened.
Yeah.
Before now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The bending days are done.
I think so. I think so.
Good. Which is a good thing for the sport and for all of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's public and it's out there and it's not getting swept under the rug. There's the other organization, they have, same issues, but they seem to hide them all and pretend like it didn't happen. So I like to see that it's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. They've done a much better job of reporting on stuff this year, even penalty boxes. We've reported them every day on live. So-and-so was in the penalty box today for this. Whoa.
Somebody rang the
Somebody's
door.
at the door.
Yeah. It's probably Amazon for my wife.
She get a lot of stuff?
Yeah, every day.
Every day. Wow.
Every day.
Huh? I mean, you better keep catching them then.
I know. Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, appreciate it.
The Hack Attack, Greg Hackney. How are you this morning?
I'm great, Dave. How about yourself?
I'm good. Isn't it weird how as soon as I just called you Hack or Greg, or I don't even know what I called you before we're recording. But as soon as we start recording, I have to be like, I'm with the Hack Attack, Greg Hackney. Is that weird that people?
It's a little. It's taken me, I don't know, 25 years, I guess, to kind of adjust to it.
I mean, I'm sure you're adjusted now. There's some people having trouble adjusting to. Are you getting calls, Hackney? Is that what's happening right here now? It's even more awkward the second time. Greg Hackney, how are you on this marvelous morning?
I'm great, Dave. How about yourself?
I'm good. We're locked in. Nothing's going to disturb us now because we're going to have a little chat about something that, a lot of people are chatting about. The no information rule. We had a couple of high-profile DQs to start out the season. What is your take on the rule?
So honestly, I've always been a big fan of it, and a couple different reasons for that. The big deal is as professionals, I think it's just a really cool aspect of it that these guys are so good. So taking them all to the place where the only thing they know about it is stuff they've learned themselves, and then winning the event or finishing high or doing well for the year is just shows honestly how good they really are. So our sport has always been blemished by information. You've had a group of guys that they want to get all the information they can. You have another group that their ego won't let that happen. And so there's always been conflicts with it. One of the things, even to some extent, that probably has helped my career back is Rick Clunn. I was such a fan of Rick Clunn and the no information deal that regardless of what other guys were doing, I wanted to be like him. And so I didn't. And I'll be honest with you, I could get the best help there is on the planet.
Yeah.
I know everybody. You know what I mean? And but my ego, and honestly, it has hurt me financially. I know this. I know a lot of guys, a lot of great anglers that are on the top. Some of them that are on the top now, even if they got the help legally. And what I mean by that was that they got it before our tournaments went off limits.
Yeah.
They've traveled around the world. Some of the greatest of the greats have fished with the best regional fishermen in the country, so they would learn those areas of the country. So when they got there, and again, I know that has hurt me financially that I chose not to do that. And I fought that battle. It didn't used to bother me. It probably bothers me more now because I'm like, man, I show up to these places and I swing out there and just go fishing. And if I don't, I'll figure them out if I get in the right area. But if I don't ever get in the right area, I can't figure them out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the funny thing about our events. They last for 3 days. The practice lasts for 3 days. And you've got 3 days to break down massive fisheries and pick out the right area. And even if you don't find the right area, it doesn't make you a bad fisherman. And it doesn't even make hey, you can't look at all of these fisheries in 3 days. So having that outside help of these are the 3 main areas that all the tournaments are won in, and this is where they live. And you take guys of our group's caliber and you give them just that much information, and that makes them really hard to beat. And so, again, everybody can get that information before it goes off limits. The problem with the 2 disqualifications that we had in the first 2 events were they just got it at the wrong time.
Yeah.
It's not against the rules to get information from people. You just don't get it once the time is set. I hate it for our sport that we've had those disqualifications, okay?
Yeah.
I don't hate it for those guys. Nobody told them to do that. They did that of their own free will. You know what I mean? So I don't feel sorry for them. I mean, one of them has been notorious for doing it for the last 25 years. But he used to be able to do it legally, and he can't do it legally anymore. And he got burnt by that.
Yeah.
But again, I got an email from B.A.S. several months ago that they were going to give 17 polygraphs per event. Okay? And I don't know. It terrifies me to go by someone that's fishing and they go, hey, have you? I'm like, oh, don't say nothing. And then if they do say it, you can't unhear it. And then you're worried about it all the time. But and I've talked to other anglers in our group that have that same issue. They're like, we hate to make anybody mad when we see somebody fishing on the lake, but oh my gosh, you see what the outcome of it could be. So you have one side of our group living on scared to death, and then you have the other side are a handful, and it's always a couple bad apples that mess up the whole barrel, but just a handful of, I guess, that felt like they had free roam to do whatever they wanted to, But another issue is maybe one of the reasons that they did that because there's never been this type of repercussion, and we've never had, polygraphs like this.
Yeah.
Like B.A.S. they've thrown out a handful of polygraphs throughout the year. I've taken a couple. But it's never been, this.
Stringent.
This is the first year. Yes. This is the first year in history that B.A.S. has really, really enforced the no information. And it stung a little bit at the beginning, but it's probably, I got a feeling from here on out, we won't have to worry about much. I mean, because it's got everybody walking on eggshells. You know what I mean? It's, but yeah, I'm not calling anybody out on this. One of the disqualifications, I don't really have any information on, but the other one, I was actually fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to see some of the video footage. And yeah, B.A.S. did the right thing. 100%. 100%.
I've not seen this video, but I've heard.
Honestly, there's a part of me that wishes I hadn't have either, honestly. But probably the part about it I hate, our sport in general, the last couple years has just been so much drama. I honestly wish B.A.S. had started this program last year, and you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. But I think last year is what brought us to the point where we are this year,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I think Bass's hand was forced. You know what I mean? Like, I've always give everybody the benefit of the doubt, if that makes sense. Throughout my entire career, there's always been a group of guys, oh, they're cheating. They're getting help. They're doing this. They're doing that. Honestly, I've always give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I have a lot of respect for our anglers, in their fishing abilities and all. And I've always felt like, I'm like, man, a lot of these guys are that good.
Yeah.
They don't need any help. They're that good. But I guess there's another group that felt like they did need some help, But I do think that last year we had a lot of drama. We had some heated meetings, and I just feel like Bass's hand was forced on this deal. And again, it's going to sting a little bit at the beginning, but in the long run, it cleans up a lot of things. And the other thing it does, it takes a lot of doubt out. The fishermen that were the ones that were saying, "Oh, those guys are getting all that help," I don't think they will have to be concerned with that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It and I mean, the only thing that's changed is the polygraphs, literally. I mean, the rule's been the same for a long time, correct?
It has, and I guess maybe that's the deal, that it's been that way so long, but it's never really been, it's just kind of been there.
Yeah.
It's never really been anything really done about it. So I guess it was just time to kind of, tighten the ship a little bit, and they're tightening everything up.
You've been in those meetings, as you said, when things got heated, but this has been driven by the anglers, correct? Like when you say their hand was forced, it's anglers saying, "Hey, we want this cleaned up."
Well, so you and I had this conversation back last fall. So Bass came out and basically completely got rid of this rule. Okay.
Yeah.
It was like that for 4 days. For 4 days in history, I even called Lisa and asked her, I said, I want you to explain this exactly. I said, so basically what this says is that I can talk to anybody, anywhere about all of our events. The off limits was going to go to 30 days, I think. I think that's right. I can't. 30 days per event. You know what I mean? So 30 days, up till 30 days before, you could talk to whoever, wherever about fishing on these bodies of water. So I wanted to know exactly, and that's, she said, I didn't have an opinion for her. I wanted to know the rule exactly. Because again, I was like, you know what? If we're fixing to play this game, I know hammers all over the country. And, but 4 days later, and I was for getting rid of it. I would say 90% of our group was like, we didn't discuss this in a meeting. We don't want them getting help. 4 days later, we went back to the original rule that when the tournaments were announced, the lakes go off limits. 4 days later, okay? So for 4 days, it was free range. It was the Wild Wild West there for 4 days. But after that 4-day period was up, it was over. We were back to where we were, and this time they had a way to check,
Yeah.
And basically, for people who don't understand that, they're not hand picking people out to take the polygraph test.
No.
They are doing random draws for places in the event. Because I do remember at the first one that 60th place got a polygraph. It wasn't the angler that was in 60th. Didn't matter who finished in 60th. But whoever finished in 60th was going to get a polygraph. And so they're doing it like they're not picking on anybody. They're basically just randomly picking numbers out of the entire field and, for the polygraph. And so, we've had one episode, the first event, where a guy didn't pass the polygraph, and that was where the disqualification came from. But the second instance, when we were at Okeechobee, the guy didn't have to take the polygraph. He self-reported. Maybe he felt like he couldn't pass it. I don't know. But he self-reported of his. I do think that, again, I got to see a piece of the video, and I do think he got on Bass Live and made a statement that it was like totally an accident. Now, the video I saw didn't look like an accident, but it's my opinion, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it looked to be like he bumped into the guy for 30 minutes. I don't know.
30 minutes is a long accident.
It's a long time. It's like you and I having this conversation. If we just we get us a couple beers and we just start talking bass fishing about wherever our next event is.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it looked like it was going down. I don't know.
So those draws to get a polygraph, if I understand it correctly, I mean, they're actually assigned before the places are even determined, meaning that I think you guys find out on Saturday that, hey, 50th spot, 60th spot, 20th spot, 27th spot is going, but you don't know where you're finishing at that point because the tournament's still happening. So there's no, that's how random it is.
It's totally random.
Gotcha.
It's actually, honestly, I'm like, before how we did it, everybody's number or everybody's name went in a hat, and another angler would actually draw. Bill Lowen, actually, the last time I had a polygraph, I said, thank you, Bill. Bill Lowen drew my name out of the hat, but it was like that. But now they just randomly draw the numbers before the event, and nobody knows. There's no way to pick who has to take it. So it's definitely but you know what? That's the best way to do it, because then nobody knows where they're going to finish.
Yeah.
So now if they do, decide to get them some outside information, they're playing Russian roulette with their career. I mean, because these disqualifications are career changers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is your livelihood. If something happens to my bass career, you know what I mean? I'm like, I better look for another job. I mean, there's that much. You know what I mean? We're professionals. I don't plan on having another job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I want to retire from Bassmaster, I don't want to be forced out of it. You know what I mean? So, there's just a lot. This is serious. This is really serious business.
Would you change anything about the rule? Are you happy with how it is?
So I'll tell you how I am about the rule. I am happy with whatever the majority of the anglers want to do.
You have gotten very happy as you've aged, Hackney.
I have. So I'm still very intense, and I have to be really careful about that. I have to be really careful about what I say, and because there's still that devil sitting on one side of my shoulder right now that's like, go ahead and tell Dave exactly how you feel about all this. But
I wish you
my
would.
deal is now, I'll be honest with you, the biggest thing right now with our group of anglers, I just want everybody to be happy.
Yeah.
Just be happy to show up, happy to be there. You know what I mean? You get to fish for a living. I want to get it back to that point. So whatever it takes for that. I do think, honestly, that after we do this for a year, it does need to be readdressed by the anglers. I think because this is something that I think all business decisions Bass should make, honestly. The no entry fees, the money, that part, Bass has to run their business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Bass's business has to work for it to work for us. And I'm fine with Bass making the decisions and making a lot of the decisions financially for the anglers and making the best decision. I feel like, Bass has made some great decisions in that. But something like this is different. This is honestly, in a way, our business, if that makes sense. This is our part of the business. So I think the anglers should decide, hey, do we like this rule or we don't like it? And honestly, I'm at a point, I'm just happy to be here, that whatever they decide, whatever the majority. Now, I'm not talking about 50 anglers voting on it and 35 of them saying they want to leave it or change it or whatever. Yeah. I mean the entire group. You know what I mean? Like when I say the majority, 98 of them voting on it and going, this is the way we want to go one way or the other. But I do think it's something that probably needs to be addressed at the end of the season to see how everybody, this is because, again, we've had the rule forever. This is the first time it's been cut and dry.
Yeah.
And there's been disqualifications from it. So see how everybody feels after a year of it.
Do you think we'll see more DQs this season?
I would honestly, I can't say no, but I would think that
with this rule, I mean, I'm specifically speaking.
Yeah, that I hope not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope not. Again, dude, we got a black eye over it. because it goes back to if there are a couple people doing it, the perception will be of the world they're all doing it.
Yeah.
That's what the shame about any time any of our guys get in trouble for something. All them pros, they've been cheating the whole time.
Yeah.
It's the reason they catch so many fish or whatever. And that honestly, that's not the truth. And here's the deal. There are a lot of fishermen across the world. And you know what? We're at Bass. We set a precedence.
Mm-hmm.
And we're expected to hold ourselves at a higher level. And I think that's the biggest reason I hate to see it. And I don't wish bad on anybody. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that there are guys, and there are guys in our group that I promise you don't like me. I get it. But the deal is, I'm like, I respect everyone. I may not be their biggest fans, but I still respect them.
Yeah.
And I don't like to see anybody get in trouble.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I hate it.
I think you're correct in a lot of ways, and I think it's short-term pain for long-term gain, and I think it's very important right now in our sport, because if you look at all the collegiate and high school stuff, I mean, dude, info has become their steroids, and they are all on it. And somebody's got to say, hey, guess what? If that's the route you go, it's going to go bad, and that's never going to happen without what we just saw happen.
And here's the deal with it. It's not like you couldn't get information at the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, there was plenty time out there. So we go to the same places over and over. I'm not saying that, like, we've not been to Okeechobee in a couple years, okay? But there's an open there. You know what I mean? Like, there's a handful of core lakes in the country that are regular stops on the Bassmaster Tour. I'm like, if you really want help that bad, just soon as the season's over, start getting it on all these places. Because most of the field are younger. Like, there are a handful of lakes out there I don't know that I'll ever get a chance to go back to, but I'm in a different position from what they are.
Yeah.
Like, so if I'm these guys that they feel like they need information, and the majority of our field now is 28 or younger, feels like, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like there's so many that age, just start traveling around and getting it. So you don't get in this situation that we're in right now. Like, there's a way to do things to, if that's what you think you need to do, you need blue dots, go out there and get you some, when the lake is not on the schedule, because eventually we're going back there.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We just rotate around. We're throwing in pretty excited about this year. I've never been to Lake Christie that we're going to in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Like 10 killer?
Yeah, 10
Lake
killer.
Christie.
Lake Christie. I think he lives on the bank of it, so we're going to call that the Jason Christie benefit event. He probably needs some money to pay his taxes. And then, so I know they've been there. Carl won. I did remember that. While I was taking a sabbatical from Bass, Carl won there, but I've never been there before. And then
I can't even say it yet. I'm still learning how to say the name. North Carolina. The North Carolina.
Yeah, the North Carolina event, never been there. So that's pretty cool. I probably enjoy those events the most, just because you don't know what to expect, and I've not been there before. So we do have a couple new places, but a lot of the other places are just regular stops on the Bassmaster Tournament Trail. So I would just advise guys, hey man, during your off season, just do it then.
Yeah.
Don't take a chance. It's not worth it to mess up your career.
Amen. You know what I like? I like this warm and cuddly Hackney. I mean, why can't we all just get along?
So there's a difference between the coffee drinker and then the other drinker.
Don't get me wrong. Just like that little devil and angel on your shoulders, I like both Hackneys. I really do. But
but a lot of that comes with age too, Dave, because as I've gotten older, I understand that, you look at things differently.
Yeah.
That you look at life different. I've had all these experiences, and and the funny thing about that growing up, like, When you thought, so my dad was on me all the time, but everything he told me was the truth. But when you're young, you don't want to hear it because you know everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as you get older, I'm look back and I'm just going on my experiences.
Yeah.
I fished with every major organization there is. Okay. FLW, MLF, now the National Professional League, Bassmaster. I've been everywhere, done everything, So I have a lot of experience with tournament fishermen. And, that's the reason I just hope our deal gets back to straight and narrow. No more social media posts that are negative. Everything's positive, and we just get back to where we all want to be. Happy that we all get to go bass fishing. We get up every morning and enjoy the life we have chosen, and no more conflict.
Amen. We're very lucky to be able to be part of this sport. Thanks, dude.
We are. Thank you.
I told you this week's topic is, well, a little spicy. And if you watch this show, which you clearly have because you've reached this point, our anglers got a little spicy at times. But the thing to remember is they are Bassmaster Elite Series pros. And the amount of drive, passion, and intestinal fortitude it takes to make the Bassmaster Elite Series makes you a true competitor. And those competitors, well, it doesn't stop when they leave the water. Their passion and drive continues. And I am so thankful that our 4 guests here this week were willing to share their true and honest opinions on this rule, on the future of the sport. I thank them for that, and I remind you that everything they said here is officially unofficial. That being said, we've heard from them. Now I'd like to hear from you guys. Let me know down below in the comments what your thoughts are. No info rule, good, bad, or ugly. Remember, none of it can be held against you, because here, everything is officially unofficial. Until next time, enjoy being, and I'm going fishing, so I got to call a buddy and we'll get some waypoints.